The great Persian Empire stretched farther than the eye could see, 127 provinces, from India to Ethiopia. And at its center, in the royal city of Susa, sat King Xerxes, the most powerful ruler of his time. His throne was built on conquest. His word was law. And his court was a place of extravagant feasts, flowing wine, and absolute power. But even kings are not immune to fate's cruel twist. On one fateful night, Queen Vashti, his once beloved wife, dared to defy him. In the middle of a grand feast, with nobles and princes gathered, the king sent for her. He wished to display her beauty before the men of his kingdom, a symbol of his unmatched glory. But she refused. The court fell silent. The air grew heavy. No one disobeyed the king. In a fit of rage, Xerxes declared her reign over. She was stripped of her title, banished from his presence, forever. But a king without a queen was incomplete. And so, across the empire, messengers were sent, seeking the most beautiful young women to compete for the throne. What they did not know, what no one could foresee, was that among those women was a girl named Esther. A girl whose destiny was already written. A girl who would one day save an entire nation. Esther was no noblewoman. She was not born into wealth or privilege. She was a Jew, a descendant of exiles, a people living in the shadows of the Persian Empire. Raised by her cousin Mordecai after losing her parents, she had learned the ways of wisdom, humility, and faith. But now, she was being taken. Taken to the palace. Taken into a world of silks and perfumes, of politics and power. She had no choice. Before she left, Mordecai gave her one final instruction.
You must never disclose your identity, Esther. No one must know you are a Jew.
The world did not need to know she was a Jew. Not yet. Not until the time was right. The competition for the queen's throne was fierce. Dozens of young women, each hoping to win the favor of the king. They spent months in preparation, beauty treatments, lavish perfumes, lessons in etiquette. But when Esther was brought before the king, something happened. Xerxes looked at her, and something stirred within him. She was different. She was beautiful, yes, but it was more than that. There was a light in her, an unshakable grace. And so, in a decision that stunned the empire, King Xerxes placed the royal crown upon the head of the orphan girl from nowhere. Esther, once a nameless exile, was now queen of Persia. But she did not yet know that the greatest battle of her life was about to begin. While Esther settled into her new life as queen, Mordecai remained at the king's gate, watching over her from a distance. One day, as he stood among the officials, he overheard a conversation, low voices, whispered threats. 2 palace guards. Plotting to kill the king. Mordecai wasted no time. He sent word to Esther, who warned the king in his name. The conspirators were captured, executed, and the event was recorded in the royal chronicles. A life had been saved. But there was no reward. No recognition. Not yet. The pages of destiny were still turning. In the midst of the king's court, another man was rising in power. Haman. A man of arrogance. A man who craved honor. A man who demanded obedience. The king promoted him above all the officials in Persia, giving him authority second only to his own. And Haman made sure everyone knew it. As he walked the streets, all who passed by were expected to bow. And they did. All except one. Mordecai. The Jew. He refused. Not out of rebellion, but because his faith would not allow him to bow to any man, only to his God. Haman's face darkened. His fists clenched. This was an insult he would not forgive. But killing one man was not enough. No. He wanted them all dead. Haman approached the king with a proposal, his words dripping with venom. There are certain people dispersed among your provinces. They keep themselves separate. Their laws are different. They do not obey your decrees. It is not in your best interest to tolerate them." Xerxes listened. "If it pleases the king," Haman continued, "let a decree be issued to destroy them. And I will even put silver into the royal treasury to fund it." Xerxes, trusting his advisor, removed his signet ring, the symbol of royal authority, and handed it to Haman. "Do with them as you please," he said. And with that, the fate of an entire people was sealed. Decrees were sent out across the empire. On the 13th day of the 12th month, every Jew, young and old, men, women, and children, shall be destroyed. Terror spread. Families wept. And in the midst of it all, Mordecai stood at the palace gate, clothed in sackcloth, crying out in anguish. The time had come. Esther could no longer remain silent. Then Mordecai sent her a message. "You must go before the king and beg for our people's lives." Her hands trembled as she read his words. Did he not understand the risk? Anyone who approached the king without being summoned, even the queen, could be put to death. And Xerxes had not called for her in 30 days. She could die. But then came Mordecai's final message, words that burned into her soul. "Do not think that because you are in the palace, you will escape. If you remain silent, relief will come from elsewhere, but you and your family will perish. And who knows? Perhaps you have come to the kingdom, for such a time as this." Esther's hands trembled as she clutched Mordecai's message. Esther closed her eyes. Her fate was clear. She had made her choice. She would go to the king, despite the risk. But she knew this was not just a battle of words, it was a battle of fate, a battle of faith. And she could not fight it alone. She called for her maids and sent a new message to Mordecai. "Go, gather all the Jews in Susa. Fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maids will do the same. And after that, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law." She took a deep breath. "And if I perish, I perish." The message spread like wildfire. Throughout Susa, Jewish families put away their food and drink. Mothers, fathers, children, they all joined in solemn fasting. No laughter. No feasting. Only prayer. For 3 days, Esther remained in seclusion, fasting, seeking strength beyond herself. And on the 3rd day, she rose. Her body was weak, but her resolve was stronger than ever. She dressed in her finest royal robes, lifted her chin, and stepped into the unknown. The moment of truth had come. The palace was silent. Not the kind of silence that brought peace, but the kind that made every step feel heavier, every breath more precious. Esther walked through the grand corridors of the palace, her golden robes flowing behind her like the tide of an ocean. Servants and guards dared not stop her, though their eyes flickered with fear. Everyone knew the law. No one approached the king without being summoned. Not even the queen. The throne room doors loomed before her. Her heart pounded like war drums. She placed her hands on the great doors, pushed them open, and stepped inside. At the far end of the room, on a raised platform, sat King Xerxes. His golden scepter rested in his hand. His expression is unreadable. Around him stood his advisors, nobles, and guards, silent, watching, waiting. The air was thick with tension. A single word from the king could mean her death. The moment stretched. Every heartbeat felt like an eternity. Then, Xerxes lifted the golden scepter. The room exhaled. Relief washed over Esther, but she kept her face calm, her posture steady. Xerxes leaned forward, his voice gentle but curious. "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request?" "Even up to half the kingdom, and it shall be given to you." But she could not reveal everything yet. Not here. Not now. So she bowed and spoke carefully. "If it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come today to a banquet I have prepared for him." Xerxes raised an eyebrow. A banquet? A strange request. But he was intrigued. With a flick of his wrist, he gave the order. Haman was summoned. The banquet was set. And the wheels of fate turned. Haman left the banquet with his head high, his chest full of pride. The queen herself had invited him to dine with the king. Not just once, but again, tomorrow. He was untouchable. Or so he thought. As he made his way home, something shattered his illusion. Mordecai. That Jew. Still standing at the king's gate. Still refusing to bow. Haman's joy curdled into fury. He stormed into his house, ranting to his wife and friends. I have wealth, power, the king's favor. Even the queen honors me. But as long as that Jew Mordecai is alive, none of it matters. His wife, Zeresh, smiled darkly. Then build a gallows for him, 75 feet high. Go to the king first thing in the morning. Get his permission, and by this time tomorrow, Mordecai will be hanging from it. Haman's eyes gleamed. Yes. Yes, that was perfect. That night, his servants got to work, hammering wood, raising a structure of death outside his house. But what Haman didn't know was that someone else was awake that night. That night, in the golden palace of Susa, King Xerxes tossed and turned in his bed. Sleep eluded him. The empire was at peace, yet something gnawed at his spirit, something important, yet forgotten. Frustrated, he called for his attendants. Bring the book of Chronicles, he ordered. Read to me about past events. A servant unrolled the scrolls and began to read. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows as the words echoed through the grand chamber. There was a man named Mordecai, who uncovered a plot to assassinate the king. He warned Queen Esther, and the conspirators were caught. Thus, the king's life was saved. Xerxes sat up. His brow furrowed. He listened intently. Wait, he interrupted. What reward was given to this man for his loyalty? The attendant hesitated. Nothing, my king. No reward was given. The king's eyes darkened. Nothing? A man had saved his life, and no honor had been bestowed upon him? This could not stand. The first rays of morning light crept through the palace windows as Xerxes, still deep in thought, called out, "Who is in the court?" At that very moment, someone had entered the outer court. It was Haman. Haman was eager that morning. His heart swelled with pride. Today would be the day he secured his revenge on Mordecai. He had come early, determined to request the king's permission to have Mordecai executed, impaled on a 75-foot-high pole he had set up the night before. He could already imagine it, Mordecai hanging for all to see, and himself basking in the glory of victory. But before he could speak, the king's voice boomed through the chamber. Haman, you are just the man I need. Tell me, what should be done for a man the king wishes to honor? Haman's eyes widened. His breath caught. The king wanted to honor someone? A slow smile crept across his face. Who else could the king be speaking of? Surely, it was him. After all, he was the most powerful official in Persia. He had dined with the king and queen. He was admired, feared, respected. Ah, yes. The honor must be his. Hiding his excitement, Haman straightened his robe and answered. For the man the king wishes to honor, let him be dressed in royal robes, the very robes the king himself has worn. Let him be placed on the king's own horse, with a royal crest on its head. Then, let one of the king's highest officials lead him through the city streets, proclaiming before him, "This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor." Haman's heart pounded with anticipation. Soon, he would be paraded through the streets, the people cheering his name. Then came the king's response, words that struck like a thunderclap. "Excellent," Xerxes declared. "Go at once. Do everything you have said, for Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Leave nothing out. Haman's world shattered. His breath faltered. His lips parted in disbelief. Mordecai? No, no, this had to be a mistake. The room seemed to spin. Just hours ago, he had come to ensure Mordecai's death, and now he was being ordered to honor him? To dress him in royal robes? To parade him through the streets like a hero? But there was no arguing with the king's decree.